everybody, and welcome to tonight's show of Hello World. Yes, so let's address Hello World and all of its glory. This is the last show of Hello World. We're looking at perhaps doing something, replacing it with something. So I thought, well, the region is pretty much done. We've got different races, we've got adventures. I beg your pardon, we've got all kinds of wonderful things, so there's really not a huge amount more that we can do that would be of difference to what has already been done. We'd just be expanding upon an existing theme type of thing. So it has been a fantastic journey, and I will make it available to everybody. So if you want to go and use it as a drop-in area, you do have it with some of the bits and pieces made available to you. But there it is. And, you know, I was actually reflecting on that because I'm looking in chat about a game that got cancelled and that got dropped. And I must admit, I was pretty miserable yesterday evening as well, because I've put together a great ensemble of people, a great cast of people. And originally we said we were going to play every second Friday. Unfortunately, everybody who agreed to play every second Friday, we didn't ever check to see which second Fridays we would actually play on. So we played 2 weeks ago, and we're only going to play again on the 22nd of June, which is 2 weeks from the beginning of June. Kinda, but not really. It's just that's how it started to work out. And I'm like, well, that's not really... I mean, that's okay. But I've never really been one to kind of go, well, yeah, all right, we'll play every month. It's like, well, what's the point, really, to be honest with you? I mean, I'm not a role-playing junkie, but I do kind of feel once every 2 weeks is at the stretch the longest. I don't know. That's just me. So I'm kind of looking at it all going, well, I do think that this is part, and it's an unspoken part, of role-playing. Is lots of prep, lots of getting ready for stuff, and then oftentimes it just kind of fades away. I do have to say, though, that things like the 5 lands that we've created for Hello World certainly have not faded away. And if you look at Utherios, which is the campaign that I made in last year's Epic Campaign series, I thought, well, once I'm done with that, I'm done with it, and that's it. But it has stuck around, it has hung around, and is still usable, and I'm now using it in my one-on-one game, which is a lot of fun. It's just too short, but that's a different story. So I don't think that whenever you are preparing a space or you're creating a space that you are going to truly lose something of value. I do think, though, that when you are playing in a game and the game doesn't actually move forward, I think then you've lost a little bit of something. If you don't have something really good to take away from the experience. So I think it's about trying to find that experience as soon as you can, because you never know. Things might just change and things might end. And the other thing, of course, as you get older, as you become one of the elderly, you start to realize that other people have real lives that get in the way and are all mushy and icky and that sort of thing. So things happen and they can't make it, and it's like, well, we just should stay teenagers forever. We should just stay teenagers forever. I had an epiphany today, as a matter of fact. It's a very strange epiphany, but I'm not going to get into that because this is not Philosophy 101 or Life as It Is. This is Hello World. So it is just, it's about creating worlds and creating spaces. We're not old, says Ben Nicholson. Yeah, we're not old. We're not old. Well, today I discovered why I'm only 13. Or 14, give or take. So that was quite interesting. But anyway, enough about that. So what are we going to be doing tonight? Well, first and foremost, I owe a PDF to the viewers, which is the question template PDF, which I had promised to make. Now, I know that it doesn't necessarily fit into Hello World, but it actually does, because for the game that runs every other month in the sci-fi game, I created a whole bunch of these things for my players to make it easier for them to interact and to operate with, and easier for myself to keep track of. And that is fillable form PDFs. So I thought, well, I've got to make this PDF anyway. It would or could be of benefit for you guys to have a look and see how I do it so that you can do it for yourself. So that means that once you've created, let's say you create your own role-playing system, you create your own game, and then you want your players to fill in stuff. Well, if it's a PDF, it's a lot easier for them to fill in sometimes than if it's a Word document. I don't know why. PDFs have got more status, I suppose. I don't know why I'm hiccuping. I do apologize. I really am sorry about that. Anyway, so yes, it's entirely up to you. It's entirely up to you whether you want me to take you through that, or I thought what we could do is we could also make a map for the 5 lands that we could use, and we can decide on what sort of map we want to make with that. So it's interactive and that sort of thing. So. That's really where I would like to be. In terms of, is my throat better? Well, I have been trying to use my voice less this week. Monday was absolute agony. I think I said like 3 words because my one housemate's obsessed with asking me questions when I can't talk. I think I said 3 words in total that entire day. It's very weird. Then I kind of thought it was better, and on Wednesday I ran the 1-hour session plus half an hour talking afterwards, and my voice was starting to go again. And then on Thursday I tried to do the podcasts, so I'm hoping to be able to record those on Monday, but the podcast is 20 minutes or 25 minutes of me just talking, and I couldn't do it. The voice, it didn't get sore, it just got croaky and stopped working. So there you are. But it's definitely on the mend, so thank you for that. I see Catherine Bishop saying, you're not old until you enter your second half century. Yes. Well, considering that my 30s vanished so quickly, I mean, when I look back at it, I go, well, what have I done since I turned 30? Okay, no, my decade of 30 was very busy, I must admit. It was a very busy year. Decade, I should say. But a lot of it does certainly feel like it was a year. Anyway, all right, so that's the plan for tonight. It is your show, though. This is us spending time together and talking and chatting. So I would love to hear what you want to do and go through. I was toying with the idea, another good friend of mine has said, he wants to run a game and he wants me to play in the game. And yeah, it's been interesting. I'm playing in a game now for a friend of mine, and I had to learn how to kind of just give up and get back into it. Then I'm playing on Thursdays in another friend's game, and that's just a lot of fun. So yeah, another game. It's like, well, I don't know. I actually want to run a game. I want to run a game. The Wednesday night game, yes, is running a game, but it's only one player, so it's a very different type of game. Yeah, I don't know. It's tricky. Let me answer some of your questions. Let's do some of your questions whilst I start to go through the PDF, and I can show you the steps I'm going to take whilst doing that. All right, so let's see. Some of the questions. AK Writer says, Word has a bad reputation among the more snobby writers. I have a friend like that who insisted the Word format is terrible. It's something I can write and it starts a new line once I reach the end without this. Yeah, absolutely. So look, I mean, Word is awfully clunky, and I think a lot of people give Word a very bad reputation because they want to put pictures in and get it to do stuff that InDesign is actually designed to do, whereas Word has not necessarily done that. So yes, there we are. So that is something to bear in mind. Mascaneer Project says, when are we going to see more 3 circles of a GM? So Mascaneer, the bottom line is, and I will be straight up with you, I'm not going to couch it. We started 3 circles at the beginning of the year as a new drive because it was something that we thought people would like and something that we thought people would respond to. And when you look at the January to basically June period, our channel performed the worst it has done in 2 years. Viewership was incredibly low. our subscription numbers plummeted. To give you hard facts, because I don't mind sharing with you guys these hard facts, our channel went from making about $1,800 a month. That's my income, $1,800 a month. It dropped all the way down to $550. The Web Goblin and I were having lots of conversations in basically, when was it, March through April, May. Well, March and April, really, where we were saying, okay, this is it. This is the end, because we can't sustain it full time on that kind of rate, because I mean, you can't live on $500 a month. I mean, it's as much as you like. And we looked at it, and this is the biggest thing, and this is what people who don't understand about social media is that you look and you go, okay, what's wrong? What's wrong? Is it this way? Is it that way? Is it this way? Is it that way? Is it because of a hairstyle? Is it because of a voice? Is it because of this? Is it because of that? And you never know. So you just tweak and you adjust and you try this one and you try that one and you try this one and you try that one. And if you look at our thumbnails, you look at our formats, all of those things, we change up quite regularly. And eventually we said, okay, look, we're going to try and follow what everybody else is doing and have lots of imagery in there and try and speed it up. So we made 10-minute videos. We put imagery in. It took me, instead of taking me basically a day to do a video, it suddenly took me 3 days to do a video. And we stopped circles. We stopped the 3 circles, and we turned it, instead we said, okay, we want you to be able to do stuff that you can watch and apply today, rather than discover an insight into the philosophical nature of role-playing, which you may use in 10 years' time. So, yeah, we changed it up. And quite literally, over a 3-week period, we're not back at our $1,800, but we're at $1,300 today, I think. When you look at our analytics, profits and that sort of thing are up by 120, 130, 140% over what they were a month ago. And I know that sounds awfully corporate. It really does. But considering that is my salary, my total income, and the Web Goblin's income, because he also gets a section of that, for us, obviously, it's about watching that and saying, okay, well, this is this and this is this. And then that's also why, you look at these thumbnails and people say, oh, your thumbnails are so clickbaity. Well, they kind of have to be, because if people don't watch, there isn't any income. So it's interesting from that perspective. And I think, one of the things that I really appreciate about the Web Goblin, and I tell him this as often as I can, is that he does all the finances behind the scenes, and he does the website, and he does RPG Table Finder. And he pretty much leaves me to do, YouTube videos and the books and that kind of stuff. He gives me lots of advice and that sort of thing. But, we were looking at it, and one of his biggest drives was we needed to diversify our content. So we weren't just doing YouTube videos. Ed Prince, that's very generous of you. Thank you so very much. I really do appreciate that. I do appreciate that donation. Thank you. And it is, I mean, this is the thing. When we started this channel, our main intention was to help people to have a better time, to show people that it doesn't matter who you are, you can be a great GM. And perhaps it just takes a little bit of insight, a little bit of have a look at this, think about that, think about that. That was the primary goal. And then once we started making money, we said, okay, the money that we make from this channel will go back into the channel and will be used for fun, because this is not a money-making venture. And it has stayed that way. It got to the point where it was only when I was in Japan and I had got pulled into a job that I couldn't handle. I was not competent enough to do that job. But in fairness, the company had hired me for another job and had sort of shooed me into this alternative where I had to resign, and I had no choice. I didn't have enough money to go back to South Africa. So I said to the Web Goblin, I need to survive on YouTube. I need to survive on our income. And then he started to work the books around and that sort of thing. So it's very interesting. It's very, 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 very interesting. So yeah, it's a journey. It really is a journey. And yesterday we had a long conference about Circle of World Builders, for example. And we said, okay, well, let's look at it from this perspective and from that perspective. And it's a very interesting one. Rest assured, everybody. So don't think that I'm out here begging or anything like that. I don't even know how we got onto this conversation. But we have now been able to ensure, well, certainly the Web Goblin has. He's ensured that we have at least enough money for salaries, for myself anyway, for the next 6 months. And when he was panicking in February and March, he was panicking because he was foreseeing us ending the entire thing by maybe May or June, because he was worried about our situation and our status. And then, of course, we got the Kickstarter, so that sort of helped. Anyway, that's beside the point. So if you want to do a YouTube channel, yes, you really need to knuckle down and accept it. So there we are. Teothine, thank you. I attended CowCon all weekend, and honestly, I was inspired. I was inspired. I mean, I was looking at it going, wow, okay, this is absolutely amazing. That there are so many people attending. The input was amazing. And just to be absolutely clear, for those of you that may have missed the announcement, all of the submissions for the 5 points. Sorry, brain gone flat. Why is my phone making a loud noise? All of the points for the five steps. Jeepers, what's wrong with that? I haven't had enough coffee, clearly. All of the submissions for the 5-step adventure sheet, which you can find on our website, and I'll show you where. All of those submissions, I will go through now every Sunday until I have finished going through those. It won't be the whole Sunday show because we're still going to be answering your questions about role-playing and all that kind of stuff, and I'll still be showing off products and things. But we will be also devoting a significant amount of time to going through those adventures. And then if you're a Patreon, you can then submit to me additional stuff, more adventures, more steps, and so on. So it becomes a good talking point, I think, anyway. Right, what am I doing? Oh, I've just done that. This is I'm talking too much. What is a champion goblin? So, Ed R. Andrew, there are 3 goblins at the moment that you can pick up, I think. And those 3 goblins, you will have to get them. You have to unlock them, basically. Now this is supposed to give me a box. Sorry. Why is it not giving me a box? No. There was a thing. I'm confused. This is what happens when you can. Wait. Is that going to make a box? No. Anyway, I was going to show you how to make this form, but it's not working at the moment. What did I do wrong? Create PDF, combine files. No. I did the thing. Didn't I do the thing? I'm sure I did the thing. It's supposed to bring up a little box. Anyway, back to this stuff. So yes, the goblins. The goblins, you will... Oh, that's why I went to the wrong thing. Sorry. Okay, so you click on prepare form. Is it prepare form? Yes, I think it is prepare form. Yes. Anyway, so the goblins you can collect, and there will be a few more still to come. It's a long-term type of thing. But firstly, you need to collect the goblins, and then once you've collected them, you need to let me know that you've got one. So if you've got one, you need to let me know. And then I'm supposed to keep track of it. Yes. So there we are. It'll be an honor system thing. So yes. Anyway, that's all I'm saying for now. But yes, collect the goblins, have fun with those little goblins, and just know that by collecting them, you are, in one way at least, showing your support for this channel. Chad Carlson says, what's the podcast? I want to support it. Well, Chad, that's very kind of you. Thank you. If you head on over to our Patreon, that's patreon.com/ How to Be a Great GM. There's I think it's a $3 tier, and that will give you access to the podcast. Now, the podcast changes every now and again. We've done Dungeons of Diabolic Design, where I had guests coming onto the show, and we were designing dungeons, theoretical dungeons. I mean, some are very, very cool. I won't give you any examples in case you want to go and listen to them. I have read the Complete Guide to Epic Campaigns as a podcast. I've done some role-playing playthroughs as a podcast. Currently, I'm reading a Complete Guide to Nautical Campaigns as a podcast. So you don't even have to buy the book. You can just listen, although I would imagine you would need the book for the tables and stuff. But yes, anyway, so there you are. Okay, now, that's great, George W. Ambush. I'm very glad that you are inspired to DM. I think that's fantastic. X Big Bad Wolf says, whatever happened to those videos where you were talking about strange African spear, the Iqua, yeah, with the funny name, we have to click your tongue. I thought you were going to do a series of videos on different cultural weapons, or did I miss that? X Big Bad Wolf, again, it was in response to what people were watching. And no one was watching that stuff. Okay, let me rephrase. About 2,000 people were watching that stuff. And that's fantastic. But when you're running a YouTube channel, you need 10,000 plus people to watch a video, I think anyway, to make it sustainable. I know certainly that's our benchmark, is when we release something, if it doesn't get to 10,000 views within the first 24 hours, we're looking at it going, okay, why didn't that happen? What didn't happen? And that sort of thing. So like the video that came out last night, it is another player video that chased last week's player video. So we know that that's why it's not performing so well this time around, and maybe one or two other bits and pieces. But it all becomes metric. Let me just put it that way. It all becomes metric, and I hate it. Right, so what I am doing here is, this is a fillable form for the questions that you as a player would be asking, in theory, during interrogation of a PC or something along those lines. So that is what I'm doing quickly, and no, cancel. So it tries to be intelligent, and it tries to give you these boxes, but it doesn't. It doesn't know what to do. It doesn't really pick up what they should be. And unfortunately, it's a case of clicking and just making it auto. I do wish that there were options to make these the standard tags, but there aren't. So I'm just going to make this up very quickly, and then we will be done with that. And then you can make a map or something along those lines whilst I continue to answer questions. But this really is it. I'm in Adobe, and so you could make a form for your characters to fill in. One of the things that I certainly have noticed is that 4 years ago, technology at the table was best left at somewhere else. Nowadays, I'm looking at it going, well, I think actually if you are responsible with how you use your tech, it can actually really enhance your game and really make it work faster. Any other questions? Any other questions? Just switch from YouTube. Already done. Oh, okay. Where do I find the goblins? Grandma has distracted me. The goblins you can pick up on Twitch if you are uncertain as to what the guys are talking about. The goblins are a reward. I think that's what they're called. For people who have basically supported the channel for a very long time, and so they can collect those goblins, and then later on we will reveal what they can do with those goblins. So there you are. Yeah, so form filling is a lot of fun. You making a form? No, it's not a lot of fun. It's actually just very painful. There. Okay, next question. Just to make sure, are these themed questions or general questions? White Tiger 225. I think let's just do general questions. I mean, we'll get to Five Lands as soon as I finish this form. I really am just being very cheeky, and I apologize for taking up showtime with work time, but it's a Saturday, and I've had a pretty great Saturday, as a matter of fact. So, all right, now next question. The Ganondorf 96 says, "What is your favorite moment GMing?" That is a great question. My favorite moment GMing, and I'm gonna be all cheesy here. My favorite moment in GMing is when my players figure out the plot. To be absolutely honest with you, when my players are sitting there and they're going, "That's the thing! Oh my God, we've got to stop this! This is going to happen!" That's my favorite moment. So in any one particular RPG session or something along those lines, that's it, is that moment where they figure it out. It doesn't have to be for the whole campaign. It could just be for the adventure. But that's my favorite moment, is when they figure it out. When someone puts two and two together, and I have to put my hand in front of my face to stop from smiling, or yeah, I think that is my favorite moment. In terms of an actual event, I think recently one of my favorite moments was in the one-on-one game that I'm playing on Wednesdays, where this cat thing attacked the player. And he let it run away. He didn't kill it. He let it run away. Could have killed it, but he saw that it was on the run. And it was like, well, I'm not going to kill it. It's running away. And it's a wild animal. It was just looking for food. So I don't need to kill it. And you're like, mind blown. That's fantastic. I love those kind of moments. So I think that was recently, that would be it. Michael Beale says, "FYI, news of a podcast is huge. What the hell? Advertise, man. Advertise. The world wants more guy." Well, Michael Beale, you are quite right. We are awful at advertising our own stuff. I mean, I will be honest. The Web Goblin is running RPG Table Finder, and every now and again he says, "Hey, check it out. Do this, do that, do the next thing." And sometimes I check it out, but usually it's a case of, what's it doing? Oh, that's really cool, because it's lots of programming in the back end, as they call it. And then I do check it out. I'm like, what the? And then I want to promote it. And he's like, no, but I haven't finished yet. I still want to be able to do the thing and 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 the thing. So yes, I know we're very bad at promoting that kind of stuff. Okay, next question. White Tiger 225 says, "So in a friend's game, I am finally a player. Yay! I am playing a female centaur, fresh out of the Fey realm, who knows nothing of human culture, but is really excited to learn. Any fun things I can confuse or mess around about human culture?" Well, I think that the critical thing here is that whatever you do, don't make it slow the game down. So don't or do not choose something like you destroy tavern tables by trying to climb inside the tavern and not fitting through the door and sitting on a table as with the back end of a horse and all that kind of stuff. Don't do that. Don't do that, because that's just going to get irritating. But I think things like, oh, you wear shoes, and then maybe trying out horseshoes for the first time, because I don't think centaurs would have horseshoes. That could be something exciting. So yes, I would look at something along those lines. I would also say, and I mean, it depends on the group that you have as well. It could be, do centaurs eat regular food, or do they eat grass? I don't know. You decide, or your GM needs to decide that. But yeah, think about it. Think about it along those lines. So it could just be offering a bowl of grass, or asking for clover and grass, and then discovering that they can give it to you. So being a little bit excited and asking for clover, grass, and maybe some bracken, and then being told, yes, you can have bracken, and then being over the moon, or some new shoots, or I don't know. I mean, it's tricky. It depends on what centaurs do. It really does, and what centaurs do in that particular world. But yes, make it light and amusing, and raise it once or twice every 4 or 5 sessions. That would be my advice. I've had players who raise stuff every session or during the session 10 times. You're like, yes, we get it. We know that. Move on. I've also had players who never raise it, and then they do raise it once. And you're like, what? Really? Oh, okay. I didn't even know that. So there you are. Mascaneer Project says, I really enjoy creating fillable forms for my game designs. You and I should talk. I hate making fillable forms because I'm not careful enough, so things break and stop working. Someone asked, where am I from? I'm originally from South Africa, and then I moved around the world for a little bit, and I have finally settled in England, and that is where I will hopefully stay until the day I die, or until I move to another country. So there we are. Welton Lima says, about the conjuring AD&D animal spell. Sounds like a technical spell. Have any tips for dealing with it at a 6-player table where it can take a long turn with 8 or more creatures? Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's a difficult situation, and it does take a little bit of fun out of it, but something that I would do is I would average and reduce. So if the player is casting a whole bunch of animals, get the player to work out the average attack and the average damage, and just do that. Just do that. They're going to whine, they're going to whinge, but if that's your house rule, that's your house rule. It is the most painful spell I know of in terms of slowing down a game. And what I usually do is when there are people throwing out, I cast 12 wolves. Guess what? The targets those wolves are killing all only have 1 hit point, because I don't care at that point. You got 12 wolves. I'm not going to spend the next 20,000 turns grinding through your 12. I don't care. Combat's not that exciting. Even if you describe it dramatically and doing all kinds of... It's 12 frickin' imaginary wolves that really have no substance, and no one cares if they live or die. So it's a number. It's a number. Their number is bigger than your number. That's how I would play it. That's me personally, but I play wild and loose, apparently. Torben BK says, the document where you added 5 different monsters, locations, traps you showed in the class, will you share that and not the empty 5 steps one? Wait, what? Wait, what? Wait, what? The document where you have added 5 different monster location traps you showed in the class, will you share that and not the empty 5 steps one? I don't recall. I have filled it in. I filled in the Fang and Flask. I had to, because everyone needed to know what the hell was going on. Initially, we said, well, we'll do it on the fly during the show. And they're like, no, we need to know what's going on first. Fair enough. It was true statement. Are you talking about... Where is it now? I am just looking for it. The Fang and Flask... You mean this one? Where I have filled in that? Is that what you're talking about? Because if that's what you're talking about, I can share it up. Absolutely. Let me go here. And I will just do a thing. No, not that one. Oh, damn. Okay. I don't know then. Which one? I did a slide. There was a slide that I had made of the 5 in the 5 columns. I did that. I'm sure I did that. Yeah, no, still not ringing any bells. Okay, well, I'll wait on that one. I'll wait on that one. I'm going to put it in there anyway, so people can have that adventure if they want to muck around with it. And then I'm just going to put the fillable forms one there as well. Sorry, this has turned out to be an awfully boring evening. I'm sorry. I will do better next time. I think that was it. The slide. Yes. Okay. So can you show the table of the questions about the quest and the campaign? The table about the questions and the campaign. Well, I can't share yet the actual the PowerPoint slides because Circle of World Builders is still working out how they want to go about doing all of that. So that's still in committee. And so that there my hands are tied. But I'm sure we will be releasing those at some point. I'm sure. All right. So now if you go to Great Game Master, come on. Anyway, crazy website. So now if you go to Great Game Master and you go to the Giant Library, no, go away. And you go to Bag of Holding, you will see here Circle of World Builders, and you go into the Circle of World Builders and you'll see there's the 5-step story form. There is the Fang and Flask adventure filled out, and then there are the 5 PC questions. Someone was asking. 6. Why did I say 5? You know, when I was editing that video, I'm like, you know, you are such a moron. Why is it 5? It's the 5 W's and 1 H, but I forgot to add the and 1 H parts. You know, and you record these things, you let them go, and then you wonder why. You wonder why people don't watch, right? Anyway. All right, let's actually... Oh, you shouldn't see that. Let's actually get on with some world building, which is what we promised we'd do 36 minutes ago. But before we get there, Skidaddle Skadoodle says, do you have any tips on making the players discover the plot? My campaigns are very blend, because usually the players end up discovering the plot because of a letter that tells everything. No. So Skidaddle Skadoodle, the 5 steps form, which I've just showed you where to find, you introduce the plot right at the beginning. They meet the person. They discover the thing. Something happens causing something to happen. That is what needs to happen at the very beginning. And the rest is discovering the whole thing through. But yes, I have been there, don't you worry, where you go, my players don't know what the plot is and I don't know how to tell them. So I will do the whole Murder, She Wrote thing where I will confess, of course it was me. I couldn't stand how they were behaving, so I went and poisoned the well. I used poison that I gathered from the frogs in the far trees, which you never went to because you didn't want to go into the forest. I've been there, done that, don't worry. So you're not alone. It really is about training yourself to give them enough clues, and you give 5 clues for every 1 point that you want to make, by the way. Sock Puppet Shane says, I've been running a science fantasy where I'm trying to reimagine the major D&D races. Where would you draw the line between an interesting reinterpretation of something familiar and something that's just weird for its own sake and slows the party down as they have to relearn and process it? I think you've answered it yourself, to be honest with you. Whether you are dealing with... Well, here's a very good example, okay? Stargate Atlantis. It was a series that ran quite a while ago. I thought it was one of the... Well, at the time, I thought it was the best of the Stargate franchises. And they had vampires in space. They had the Wraith, which had a sucker thing on their hands, and they could drain life out of you exactly like a vampire. What else was different? No, that was it. They had telepathy, they had teleportation to suck you out of nowhere, but that was science that was already in existence. They were literally just vampires in space. They had long white hair, and they had bad teeth and pallid skin, but that was it. So it is very... It's very fun to try and have very different races, but when those races become problematic, you don't want to play them. Mass Effect is a great example of that. So you can play as a human, or as a human, or as a human, which I had an issue with. I wish you could play as one of the other humanoid races that vaguely were humanoid. But there were some in there that were like floating jellyfish or giant, slow-talking, emotionally bizarre creatures, or little badger-like things that couldn't breathe outside of their suits. Those would have been game breaking because of the manner in which they worked. The races that didn't, that were basically just, oh, well, he's a Solarian, so they're amphibian geniuses who are very smart and snarky. Oh, she's a Taurian. They are strong and thick-skinned, like their armor plating. Oh, she's Krogan, so she's an orc, basically. We need the shorthand in order for people to absorb and for people to understand what they should be doing. When we step out of the humanoid space, it becomes problematic. So that's why, for example, I really don't like players playing gnomes, halflings, or Ewoks, or Jawa when I'm running Star Wars games, because they are so diminutive, they are so short, that the everyday world becomes problematic for them to engage with. They can't fly a starship unless the starship was specifically designed for them. Just can't do it. Sorry, you physically cannot reach all the controls. And no, you can't stand on your tippy toe. I mean, it's like literally asking a 5-year-old to reach 6 foot's worth of space. They just can't do it. So I always say, if you're going to create races, make them as similar as you can to humanoid and as far away from humanoid as you can, but don't go very, very much further than that. So yes, there we are. Xander the Green says, are you and the others going to do another RPG review anytime soon, or was it scrapped? I honestly enjoyed listening to everyone's thoughts about the Lord of the Rings game. Well, Xander, it's a funny thing that you mentioned that. The exciting news, I guess, could be that I will be doing a review of 2 new, well, not new RPGs. They've been around for quite some time. I will be doing a review of that in the next month. I will be doing another RPG, and then the month after I'll be doing another one. I won't be playing with people because, again, we looked at what were people most interested in, and most of the time they were interested in the review. So I've had a company, a publisher, approach us, and they said, look, we like the way you review stuff in terms of your niche, as in, is this fun for telling a story? Are there narrative mechanics that are going to help you tell your story better or not? So I will be doing it for 2 new ones. The one I'm very excited about, it's like a science fantasy, I think is the right one. And then the second one, I have already been warned by several very influential people that if I stuff it up, they will find me and they will kill me. Which means there's a very small part of me going, because they used the magic words, no, you can't. And of course that means my inner little rebel says, I can't, or you're just not creative enough to step outside your box. Ooh. Anyway, so we're going to be looking at 2 of those, which I think is going to be very, very exciting, very different. So yes, there we are. Right. I'm looking for other questions. No other questions at the moment that I can see. I shall send an army of goblins after them if they try to kill you. Thank you, Laura. I do appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. So, yes. No, I mean, AK Writer, you're quite right. Playing another human is very boring. And for my sci-fi game, I created, I don't want to lie, I think it's 18 different alien races. I think it's 18. Of 4 players, 1 chose to be an alien race. The rest chose human. It's not a reflection on them as creatives. It's not it is the problem that we suffer from. Insofar as when you're creating new races, there is a barrier to understanding how that race works, and people don't want to violate or overstep their bounds. And so as a result, they pull back, and then they just default to what they do know how to play, which is a human. Michael Beale says, I'm not a big fan of the Tolkien races either. Any suggestions for reflavoring the fluff? I don't want the players saying, so it's basically an orc. Your players, by genetic design, are going to be looking for comparisons with the races that you create. And it is highly unlikely that you will get to a point where you create a race and at no point does the player sit back and go, so basically they're like this. If you think about how we, if you are an evolutionist as opposed to a creationist, if you think about how we evolved to categorize things into safe and harmful, dangerous, not dangerous. So we're constantly looking to do that. That's why we love stereotypes and pigeonholing people. At least that's my theory. And so you create a race, and your players will be looking at that race. They're going, I need to categorize this because I'm human. As a human, I need to categorize this. It's an elf-like thing. It's an orc-like thing. It's a this-like thing. We're looking for the pattern, as Tiathini says. We're looking for that sort of thing. So they're going to be looking for it. And so my approach, and this is why I do all of the steps and things that I do in the storytelling, is people are going to be looking for that anyway. That's what they're expecting. So our job is to give them what they're expecting, but then to twist it up a little bit and say, well, yes, those are elves, but they live in the desert and they're sand focused and they have sand sailing ships that sail across the sand and glass seas, and they have this and they have that and they have the next thing. So you're combining different elements in a new way or in a slightly different way. And that's when people go, oh, cool. Well, I know that they're elf-like. So they live for a long time and they're going to be a little bit aloof and a little bit logical and a little bit cold and a little bit this and a little bit that. So they can then know how to react, and it makes them comfortable, and then they will engage more. And as a result, then they'll be more willing to play. So it's an interesting one. I mean, it really is. We don't want to deviate too far, because otherwise people are literally in no man's land and they're going, well, I don't know how to deal with this race. We're getting slowly better at it, but yeah, not a huge leap at the moment. Not a huge leap at the moment. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to do today, when we look at the 5 lands, I mean, it worked out really well. And we have lots of articles that we can look at and we can go back to and we can rework and redo. And I mean, there's 40 followers, which is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. But what do we actually need to start playing in this? We have an adventure. We have that adventure. We worked it out. The Sunstone Mine plot. We have it all worked out here. So what really do we need? How do we bring this about? What do we do to make this workable? Quite frankly, we need a map, as far as I'm concerned. And recently, Dungeon Fog released not one, but 2 map asset updates. One was a Greek theme, and the other one was the Kaora designed new assets. I haven't had time to even play around with those. I've been sitting here going, oh, I've got this to do, I've got that to do, I've got the next thing to do. And then when I want to sit and play with them, like today, I was like, no, but you're not supposed to be working on a Saturday. You're supposed to have at least one day off. So don't go to wait until that's something that's justifiable. So I think we should make a map. I really do think that we should make a map. There's some dialogue. Someone's staying hydrated and someone's paying tribute to Draco Vale. Okay, well that's great. That's good. Good to be hydrated. That's a good question, actually. So I want to play around with the new assets, and I don't know how you guys go about doing it. I think everyone's slightly different. But I'm going to open up Dungeon Fog here. Now, bearing in mind, I have the full subscription to Dungeon Fog thing. Did I zoom out on this map, on this website? It looks really small. Anyway, all right. So I'm going to make a new map. I don't know what we're going to make. You guys can decide. It'll be in the jungle. Something. I've done so many jungles though. Let's do the geode mine that the big battle happens in. Let's do that. Geode mine. Main location for the geode battle. Okay, cool. So we'll do that. And I change it to that. And under custom, this is where you can work out your page sizes, by the way, if you didn't know that. And I think the A stuff is very, very British-centric. I don't know if the American stuff works there. So I think that's why then you've got legal and letter and ledger and all that kind of stuff. I don't work with any of those. I just usually set this at 100. And then I usually start at about 25 by 25 because I'm going to get there anyway. So we're going to just create that. And I really want to use the new stuff. So, you know my usual method by now. Hopefully you should know my usual method. I know labeling this ground floor doesn't make much sense, but it does in my head. Okay, so I've just made the plan of what we're going to be doing. And oh wow, so he even donated some actual designs. I did like the floor design, the floor tiles and things, but I'm not convinced. Dark blue grass. Interesting. Okay, well, that's not what we're here. We are here because we wanted some kind of stone, because this is underground, right? A mine with a scary bridge over nothingness. Or is that too Lord of the Rings? No, I don't think that's too Lord of the Rings at all. Will we see tree goblins and grungs in the jungle? I think we could. We never really kind of got too deep into what were the dangers that lurked in our jungle in the Five Lands. So I think we could have tree goblins. Why not? Little pesky, nasty, horrid tree goblins. Right. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm plotting out my dungeon. So that's the space that we're working in, right? That's the pretty much the territory that we're working in. Thickness is absolutely fine. Actually, if we make it a little bit wider, right? So now, when we spoke about this, we said that there was going to be an open air territory, right? The face, if you like, of the mine. So we're going to put it up here, I think, because that makes the most sense. Okay. And I just made a color and made it bright. Then we're going to have that mine shaft, which is going to sink in. Adrian, 1976, thank you so much for that. I really will have a cup of coffee on you, but just not right now. I'll have to go and get one. So we're going to have a central shaft, which basically runs straight down, and that's going to be 10 foot wide because that's nice and dramatic. Okay. And I think then we get into the main chamber, which is where it's going to be fun. So I can already tell that this map is not big enough. I'm going to just go in another 10 there. Okay, that's better. It's still not brilliant. I mean, it's better. So I'm going to have this running down to there, and then I'm going to have the geode. Roar, failure, epic failure. That's very boring. Let's do that. That's a bit better. And that. And again, we go to the map and we add 5. Okay, back here. Brr, 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 brr. Okay, so that's bigger. That's a better space. That's a better space. That's a good length of mine shaft. And then I'm going to go 5 out here. Because we also said that the goblins, or whoever it was, the enemy, would counter drilling into this mine, right? Where's my? Oh, I'm at that. They were counter drilling into the mine. So we're going to do something like maybe this, and have it that they went on a bit of a trip because it's a bit more dramatic, and then we're going to have the exit out here. Okay, and some points we're going to do that. All right, so that's our main storyline. Then, because it is a working mine, we assume they're chasing veins of the sun crystal. We would have a breakout there, and I think that can give us something in here. And I would want another breakout, maybe just a little bit below it, going this way and then that way as it's following a chain of thought, and then down this way. And we could have something fun over here. And we could have something fun over here. Oops. Tree goblins for the win. Thank you, Vicky T, for that donation. I do appreciate it. Yeah, tree goblins for the win. Why not? Why not indeed? And then we will have a little something out here with maybe lots of little counter shafts, because I'm thinking the players might explore. Okay, they might explore, they might go somewhere. Again, I'm just roughly hatching this out so that we have an idea of where we're going. I don't know if we need, let's do a little something here. But again, this doesn't have to be a big space. Okay, cool. So that's that's fine. Right, and we know that that's the cliffside there. That's a bit of an inlet, so that's okay. All right, cool. I think one breakout area could be where mining tools and a dormitory is stationed. Absolutely right. Amen Musashi, absolutely right. We certainly could do that. So yes, I think that's pretty much it. That's all that we need to worry about for now. So when I go up here, I then obviously can hide my stage, and let's just drop this down a little bit, please, so we're not blinded, right? So now I'm seeing my plan underneath, and now I can actually build this thing and make it work. Kind of looks like a nuclear reactor, says Andy the Green. Yeah, well, it's that circular thing, I think, which makes it feel very nuke-ish, if you like. All right, so we're going to start by making the actual what am I saying? We're going to make the mine shaft. So the floor, natural stone of some kind. I mean, this is where you start playing for days, right? And I'm thinking we wanted to feel like it's been well trodden type of stuff. So let's go with something. Oh, that's quite a nice texture. Let's go with something like that. And then the walls, we're going to do the same thing. Just darken them down. This should be 300 because I like working at that scale. I don't know why I like working at 300%, but that's the percentage I like working at. Okay, so here we go. And now I'm control plussing to zoom in. And so this is a really long corridor that's going to lead all the way down to there. I don't have a problem with that. That's one long corridor, 19 squares. So what's that? 95 feet long. That's quite a long corridor. That's quite a long corridor. That's not terrible. And this is 60% zoomed in. So remember, when I go to 80%, this is what the players will be seeing. So I think this is then maybe it should be something like, even that's too much. That's too small. So let's make it 150. Split the difference. Something like that. We'll probably come back and change. We'll probably come back and change all of those settings. Oh, and it's a cave, so we want to do that. Okay, so this was 150, and it was a cave. Okay. The Gakota are the twin lizard folk who are our race that we basically created for the game. And so they're little, one of them is based off of gecko lizard folk, and the other one are lizard folk. Yeah. Right, so mine shaft going out this way. I generally look at it and say, well, some players like things to be exactly on the button, exactly on the square. If you have tactical players like that, by all means, make them comfortable, make them happy, and allow them to do that. These corridors are 10 feet wide, and I know for a fact that I'm going to want to... I thought I had changed that. Anyway, I know I'm going to change the texture, but I'm not worried. I'll change the texture using a tool that I learned from Circle of Wibbles, actually. So if your players do like things on the square, then by all means give it to them on the square so that they can move their tokens in. And it's a bit of a toss up in terms of creativity, because I'd far rather have these walls being all skew and twisted and convoluted. So I'm going to use this, and I know that this is the wrong shape. I see that. That should be there. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I don't know. It's weird. Whichever way I look at it, it's weird. It's weird. It's weird. Well, the mine shaft would, I suppose, taper, but it's fine for now. We'll come back and fix it. Yeah, so just decide on what your players are like, and we can then design accordingly. So we're talking about having a dormitory or something. This could be the dormitory, in which case then, and this is something that I think people forget about, is if you're in the dormitory in the middle of the night, do you really want to go hopping along 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? So that's already 45 feet. And then you're going up another. Do you really want to walk 200 feet or so to go to the privy? I don't think so. I think you'd be quite clever. And I think that what you would do is you would probably have a little excavated room there that, actually, you know what? Let's not do it that way. I'm going to hold shift down once I've started the point so I can make it my own shape. And we'll make it something like this, right? And in that, I would have some kind of waste monster, like an ooze or gelatinous cube, something that consumes anything. And I would then have a latrine based above this so that this could drop down into there and then it would just eat it. I know it's an awful idea, but it is what it is, and it is a way for the players to get in. So there we go. There we go. Yeah, look, another point that was made by Amamoshasi is definitely a lot of games have area of effect and it's 5 squares or it's 3 squares. So having regular shapes makes more sense. Whereas here you say, well, what's the volume of this space? And you have to then average. It becomes complicated. Okay, then this room here could possibly be the managers or the foreman's rooms. So as I'm busy building that, by the way, I'm going to change that up. Now these are 5-foot wide corridors, which we don't see very often in maps. I remember looking at D&D maps going, wow, 10-foot wide corridors. That's 3 meters wide. Schools have got 3-meter wide corridors. But when you go and visit ancient castles, they don't have 3-meter wide corridors. They have narrow corridors. And you go, wow, okay, 5 foot is better. The reason why they make it 10 foot is so that 2 players can stand next to each other, which is great, but not necessarily realistic. So if this is a side quarters, I really don't see that they would spend a huge amount of time cleaning up the rock face, because this takes time. This does take time. So that's going to be a little side room where he keeps the payroll. So if the players ever want to attack this, because it's players, who knows what they're going to do, right? Would they have a kitchen down there, or would be meals served outside? So I think meals would probably be served outside. I would imagine, I mean, it's not that far out, and you're going to be going in and out all the time anyway to deliver your stone and that sort of thing. I would imagine that there would be a canteen out in the digging pit area where you would get your meals. It's also out in the sun. It's quite nice and chillax, unless it's raining, of course, in which case you can then take your food in with you, and then you throw the scraps into the gelatinous poop cube. I don't know. I never thought I'd say that word, but there you go. It is what it is. We must accept our fate and just move on. Okay, so to signify that these tunnels were almost looking for minerals and didn't really find them, I'm going to make this whole corridor one thing so that light illuminates. I'm going to put a little kink in here because it's always fun. You get to a corridor, a corner, you can't see around it. You can hear a strange noise coming from behind it. It always gets the player's blood going a little bit, as they're not entirely sure what's that. That was a room down there. Okay, cool. So we want to finish that off and come here and do that. I mean, I don't actually know. The closest I have gotten to something like this was I was once involved in television, and I was doing a documentary on this mega power plant that was being made in South Africa. But it was a green power plant, completely self-sustained. It was 78% self-contained. So it only needed 22% to be added on a fairly regular basis, and that 22% was water from rain, because it was a hydraulic system. And that was a cave system, but it was all pre-constructed, so they just dug straight in, and their lines were perfect. Weird and wonderful lines, but they were perfect because they were civil engineering, and there was a lot of velocities. Why did I just do that? Did I press? Oh, thank goodness. I pressed undo twice. That was silly. Okay, let's just finish this off. Boom, boom, boom. And we said this was going to be a little extra room. I forget what we said this room was going to be for, actually. It's going to be for something. I'm going to actually make these little 5-foot cells. I don't know why. We'll figure them out. That's the fun part, I think, anyway. I did have an idea for something that I wanted to put in here, which I will share with you in a little bit, because we can now actually build this. I wanted to share the new assets, because there's arenas and stuff that came with the Greek thing. So I was like, well, what if you were digging out this space and you don't find anything? Well, you find stuff, and then it becomes this large empty chamber. What do you fill it with? So I was like, well, what if they put an arena in here? But I see there Xander is talking sense in terms of, well, where do the sunstones get stored? Maybe it could be storage area. Yes, it could be, and it would make more sense for it to be a storage area, to be absolutely honest with you. But I'm not convinced that's the most exciting use for this space. So I'm going to just humor me for a second. Oh, really? Really? Okay, so that would go to there, and then we would have one down. Okay, and then we're going down quite a few to there, and then into, and then up one, and then along, and down, and into, you idiot. Missed. Okay, we'll come back. We'll fix it. We'll fix it. Ah! Awful, awful, awful. How not to do it. No. Bad dot. Okay, so there's symmetry there. Right. Let's see. Is there a way to back up one dot when drawing a room, or do you have to start over? No, Drew Kimmel, you don't have to start over. All that I do is I make sure that I have the same number of dots, and then you can just move them around as you need them. So even if you don't have enough dots, you can add more. So in this case, I need to just add 2 here, I think. And then Dungeon Fog asks me, why do I make such big maps? It's like, I don't make the maps. It is the people who are drilling and digging and who discover what's going on. They are the ones who make the maps, right? So now we've got our symmetry. Ta-da! Okay, the back end is not symmetrical, but that's just what happened. So we have this big space, and I'm going to use that for something else. All right, so we needed storage. You're quite right, Xander. We need to store these things somewhere. So, but they need to be taken out first and chiseled and cleaned up, and so then they could probably be stored somewhere else. But perhaps some very rare things could be added here. So let's do this. Okay, normally each corridor gets its own room so that I can put doors and stuff. That's just how Dungeon Fog works. So normally, like here, it's a door there and then a door there. But here, I feel like it would be a door there, and then why would you have another door? It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. Something that I put into my maps often, and my players don't find them because they don't do this anymore. Secret doors. They don't check for secret doors. They rush in, they're busy doing their thing, and then they rush out again. It's like, yeah, you didn't check for secret doors, did you? Anyway, that's okay. I give them rewards in other ways. So now I'm going to start on this geode. Do we want it to be perfectly spherical? Will that be weird? I think that would be weird. Well, it is a geode, isn't it? So that does make a lot of sense. Oh, I can sense Okay. All right. So we're going to make this basically a sphere. Yeah, that's the best way. We're going to make it a sphere. And we're going to make it 18. Can we go 18 by 18? Yeah, see, again, this is why the maps get bigger and bigger and bigger. 18 by 18. So we can't actually get 18, so we're at 17. So let's make it 17 by 17. We bring it in 1. Okay, so there's our space. We know this is going to be a circle. Now, this is going to take up a huge amount of space. But yes, meteor impacts are perfectly cylindrical. Geodes become cylindrical, but the center of a geode is not cylindrical. I know that much because I've cut open a couple. But it can be cylindrical in nature. And I think this one very well could be that it is, what am I doing? That it is a impact crater. All right, so I'm going to actually make this advanced so that I can... No, I don't need it to be advanced. I'm just going to make it a cave, and then I select the line. Come here. Line. And then I circle it. And I can change the depth of this circle, by the way. I can make it a perfect circle or not, depending on what I want to do. I'm going to make it a perfect circle for now, just to see how big this ends up. Now, there was a discussion, I don't remember where it was happening. I think it was in Circle of World Builders, where people were talking about how big do you make your maps. And I was talking about it with Dungeon Fog, with the creator, with Till, and I was saying, well, sometimes if you actually look at the scale of certain buildings, these things need to be hundreds of feet in length. And 17 is an awful number to work with, but these need to be hundreds of feet in length. And the biggest thing is, and I learned this lesson very, very, very painfully, was that if you have a player who moves at 60 feet around, okay, first you have to count out 60, and assuming each block is 5, so they've got to move 30 squares in, is it 30? No, I'm telling a lie. It's 12, right? So they can move 12 squares, boom, 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 boom. Okay, what do you do? Nothing, because they're not ranged. All right, so you move another 12 squares. Boom, 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 boom. What do you do? You're still doing nothing. It can sometimes take minutes to get around an entire facility. Is that really fun for the players and for the characters? Okay, you're running. Oh, you're still running. Yep, you're running. You don't have any ranged attack? Nope, still running. Mm-hmm. Running. Well, that's exciting. Still running. Okay, good. Still running. So it can become very boring. So sometimes ignoring the scale is a better option. I'm not unhappy with the size of that circle, though. Okay, the map is now at 34 squares by 47 squares. So that's pretty big by Dungeon Fog standards. I'm not unhappy with this space, though, because I think it is not... It will take you 2 rounds to get from one side to the other. So that's okay. It doesn't break that rule. And then we just need to finish off this space by adding in... Now, connecting to circles in Dungeon Fog is tricky, so I usually work the other way around. So once again, we're going to have our cave entrance. Let's start it there. And then this is just dug randomly because it was dug by the... Well, we're saying tree goblins now. So now I'm just going to follow it. And although you can randomly click, I find that if you have a shape that you are tracing, it's actually better in terms of consistency of thickness and that kind of stuff. I usually find that's better. There are dozens of ways you can actually physically measure it and all that kind of stuff. But this is meant to be something that's not designed by the minors. It's designed by the adults. Okay, yeah. So yes, yeah. Look, I mean, absolutely, AK, right. I mean, this was something that when we were doing nautical campaigns, we discovered. We're like, say what? Your ship only moves how fast? Over how? What? How does that make sense? Oh, because you need the creatures to be able to fly up to it and actually land on it because they can't under normal circumstances. Yeah. But again, remember, it's coming from originally, it's coming from a tactical tabletop war game where you didn't have a castle that was to scale because you couldn't fit that with your little minis on top. So, yeah. All right. I think we're there in terms of our basic layout. The only thing that we need to do now is the exterior. So for that, let's go with a brownish sort of rock type of thing. I'm going to show you a bit of a trick here. So we want it to be the organic rock face, right, up until they've dug into the actual mouth of it. What is up with these hiccups? So I'm going to do this. And then I close off the room. Okay. And then I grab the shape and I move the dot into null space. And I move the dot into null space, off the map. And then what that does is it gets rid of your edge, but it makes you look as if you have a nice clean outside, which you can now populate with whoever and whatever you so like. Plus you can now have your cave entrance. The actual cave itself, we don't have to worry about because that's now been filled up. And so I'm going to use exactly the same technique over here. Assumedly, the players are going to find this relatively easily. Okay, and I would then have another map for this section outside, right? But yeah, now we don't have the wall there. The other trick is to select the wall, hide the wall, and all that kind of stuff. I think this is just easier and faster, and it still gives you that space that you need to operate in anyway. Okay, so now I can go down to the floor plan because we have translated that floor exactly how we want it to. I can go to the floor plan and now I can delete all of these horrific lines. I can just get rid of them. I could also go into layers, I guess, and go to brushes and select each brush. Select the brush and just delete the brush. Either way, there's no grouping at the moment. I could make it a group. No, I'd still have to move them individually anyway. So it's fine. I will just go through and clean up my space. If we wanted an underground passage, if we, let's say we went back to this and we wanted this latrine to actually, that's a nice collection of dots in it. And we wanted to actually have the negative space underneath where the cube exists. We now have that layer that we could play around in. If we wanted to add a river, there was a talk of a dark, deep canyon of some kind. We could certainly do that. Do you notice how this room seems to be sticking into the corridor? I don't like that because that's weird. And that's just a layering thing. So if I go to the actual layer and I go to stage and I go to the different rooms, if I find this room, well, there's the main corridor, which we want to be on top of everything. So I've just grabbed the little minus, the equal sign. And by dragging it to the top, it's now put it over everything else. So it becomes dominant. So everything comes off of it, which I think looks much better. It's a nicer way of cleaning up your maps as well. All right. Okay, so now we're going to, now I think is a good time to look at our corridor and decide, are we happy with that floor style? I'm not. I tell you right now, I am not happy with that floor style. So the floor just is not working for me. It doesn't feel like cave floor. Let's have a look at this option. That's not too bad. And with this paint roller, I can now change it all to being this style, right? Quite quickly and easily. There are a few rooms I'm not going to change. I don't know. Do I prefer that one? Or maybe I'm not sold on this one either. If I zoom to 100%, this is what the players will be seeing. It's not bad. It's not terrible. I'm not in love with it, though. I'm not in love with it. And it's important because this is going to set the mood. Ooh. This is going to set the tone of the entire thing. That's not bad. That looks like chiseled stone to me. Maybe a bit darker. And maybe the walls need to be darker. Maybe that could work. Yeah, that could work. That's going to work. It's a bit, I don't know, maybe it's boring, but I think it's not detracting, and it's a very basic, definitely you are in a cave type of thing. I see someone saying it's elephant skin. Yeah, it could be elephant skin. Okay. Done. Changed. Not changing the outside at the moment because the outside is the outside, so it's a different texture. Right. All right. So there we go. I think the outside, it's neither here nor there for me. It's not blowing my hair back, if I'm being absolutely honest. Mm-hmm. That's quite gloomy, I think. I think that works, actually. I'm going to leave it like that. That works for me. That works for me. It does. I've been in a few mines. They are pretty boring. Yeah, they are. That's the thing. Sometimes you get lucky. Like this geode. We're going to have a lot of fun with this geode because I really want this geode to feel like it's got a lot of depth to it. And I've got a couple of tricks up my sleeve as to how we're going to achieve that. And I think the important thing is it was 17, right? Why did I make it 17? Why didn't you stop me? Why didn't you stop me? Why didn't you stop me? 17 is so awkward. How should we do this? All right, we'll do it another way. I'll think about it. Geode with a lot of depth. Pun intended. Well, no, it wasn't, sadly. I'm not that awake because I'm nearly out of coffee. All right. So my next step, once I've put in the basic groundwork, these are the processes that I found works the best. I then go in. Did he give us new doors? Ooh. And stained glass windows. Well, that's exciting. You see, this is what I love, is it just constantly updates with new stuff. So I'm going to use lots of archways, which I'm going to throw down. Double archways for the big 10-foot corridors and little smaller ones for the smaller one, obviously. We said this has a door on it because they sealed the door, if I remember correctly. From the writing exercise. So we'll put in a door there and we'll put in a big double. No, let's use the skeleton doors. I quite like the look of those. On that side. Boom. Okay, so there's big doors in there. Then archways would be off of corridors that are not necessarily critical. I do think we should take a bio break for refueling, actually. That's not a bad idea at all. I think that would only be a 5-foot door, to be honest with you, and they'd probably put it right in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to... No, that wouldn't be an archway. That would be a door. A heavy stone door, and this would probably be a heavy stone door as well. Okay, wait, another archway here. After doorway placement, we'll take a break. I put in the doors, and the reason why I put in the doors is because doors are, I think anyway, very important in terms of figuring out the flow of your dungeon and who's going to hear what, and oftentimes how are your PCs going to escape. That for me is the biggest thing. I'm going to put in bars here. I don't know why. And as a matter of fact, I think under Windows, there are better bars. They look a bit more like prison cell doors to me. Maybe it could be like a thing where you get incarcerated and you actually get sent to the bottom of this mine. That could be quite a fun secondary encounter, is that you find these prison cells that are being guarded. So that could be quite useful. I do realize we have forgotten something. If one is in the theater, one always needs somewhere to change into one's costume. And I have a plan to make this a theater of some kind, depending on what the assets are like from... Oh no. Oh no. What was the thing? This is the only thing. I wish we could have multiple swatches. Where was it? It was solid stone, I think. Yes, thank the maker. But it was darker. Did I just change that one too? Well, it's fine. It's the theatre. It's different. How do you get those rounded walls sides? Rounded wall sides. Oh, you mean... So what I do is I select a wall and then I can go straight, circle, or curved. If I go curved, I get these controller tangents that I can then make it any shape I want. If I go curved, it just makes it a semicircle, which is if like that. So if you want rounded corners, that's the best way to do it. It's the fastest way I found anyway. So just bear in mind that a circle has far more volume. It gives you far more space, but it takes up a lot more space as well. Great acoustics, however. Straight walls are terrible. I say acoustics, but that's just an obnoxious way of saying acoustics. You do not want straight walls in a room where you are hoping to get good acoustics, because that will actually cause you to have bad acoustics. As one of my lecturers used to say, you don't want straight walls, you only want gay ones, because they change the way that the sound bounces around, and then they don't create things called standing waves and all sorts of other funny things. Okay. No, great acoustics. Man, we don't want enemies using loud spells in this place. You know, that was something that I thought we could have added in. As you mentioned that, we don't want enemies casting loud spells in this place. Imagine if one of these chambers had such interesting acoustics that whenever a spell that had a verbal component was cast within it, the effects of the spell were multiplied by a factor of a d6. So the mage would cast the spell and then roll a d6 and see how many of the echoes that were in the same space caused the same spell to be cast. Because if it's the same spell, if the spell is only verbal and the mage casts it verbally and it echoes, wouldn't those echoes cast it as well? I mean, that would just be absolutely nuts. And I think it would be a lot of fun. It's like, is your spell verbal? Yeah. All right, well, there's 20 fireballs in the room now. Bwah! This mega explosion or something. I don't know. I need coffee, so I'll be back, let's say 3 or 4 minutes. Okay, I'm back. I see that's caused a little bit of interesting discussion. Vicky D says, cold coffee's no good. I think I spent so many years drinking cold coffee that I have got used to it, to be honest with you. But there is nothing nicer than a nice warm cup. I do agree with you. All right. Doors. We're nearly finished with doors. Got one more to drop in there. We've got cells. Oh, here wouldn't be a door. It would be an archway. Possibly a big one there. And then a little one here as they have dug into this chamber. Yeah, so look, I mean, save says, you're quite right though. That little save button is absolutely critical. And you're not seeing the desktops. There we go. Right. Where were we? Oh, the fun part. No, not yet. No fun for you. Okay, and then this will be... Let's just drop it in prison door there. We select it. Select the door. And then we go down here. And I don't know why it's cutting it off. That's weird. It is trapped, it is concealed, and it needs a key. So it's highlighted in red for us. So there we go. Well, an interesting thing about sound, and I wasn't lying when I was talking about your walls. If you go into a professional sound studio or into an auditorium that's been built correctly, you don't want any wall to be perpendicular to another one. There should not be any right angles anywhere, because right angles cause lots of problems when it comes to sound. Because it is possible to create what are called standing waves, where effectively the sound travels from one point to a wall. It hits the wall so perfectly that it bounces back in exactly the same phase as when it was going to the wall. So what happens is you get some areas where there's very loud audio and other areas where there's absolutely no audio. So they're cancelling each other out completely, or that you get completely dead area because there's absolutely no audio whatsoever. That's how, well, that used to be how sound cancelling headphones used to work. Anyway, so there's a lot of different things that you can do with sound. You can make things louder, you can make them softer. The Greeks knew this. They're amphitheaters. If you stand on where the actors were standing, you'd be able to hear them from all the way back. I mean, it's all sorts of wonderful stuff that you could do. So magic, you could argue, goes both ways, or you could just say the chamber's magic and that's how it works. Just deal. Depending on what kind of mood you're in. I want to do this chamber because I know that we're running out of time as well. So this chamber, this is the giant crystal chamber. And I wanted it to feel like there are multiple levels to the space disappearing down into the darkness. Into the darkness! Get into the darkness! I don't know why I did that. Anyway, into the darkness. And I originally set out, I wanted to use all of Kaora's new stuff. So we've got books and bones and chairs and couches and washing tubs, gargoyles, that's quite fun. Grapes, mounted wolf head, mounted deer, interesting. Some pillars, lots of roses, that's interesting. Shrubs, I like that. Lots of flowers, well, you'd expect that from Kaora, he's a cartographer. I like that. Fountain, okay, cool. So there's some exciting stuff in there, which I can't wait to get to use. Now, the other one that came through was, they probably put it under flavor, Greek. Now, I saw the Colossus that they made. Statue Lovers. Shield. Okay, so that's the Spartan shield. Broken column. More columns. Fluted columns, as a matter of fact. Some nice Corinthian helmets. Statue ringers. Now, I do love the Dungeon Fog team. I really do. But they are translating German into English. So sometimes you go, a statue ringer. What the... Anyway, we'll see. So this was that amphitheater that I was talking about. The amphitheater seating, which got me so very, very excited. And I think they've got some broken ones in there. Oh yeah, look at that, look at that, look at that. So this could be like an ancient amphitheater that used to be in operation and got forgotten about or rediscovered. And there could be something in here. So well, that's one of the other things. You know, we talk about seeding adventures and plotting out adventures and talking about potential things that people can discover and that sort of thing. And I think that this is an opportunity for us to play around and add and look at. So I just got to see what these temple ringers are. So oftentimes what I do is I open the... Okay. Ringers. Wrestlers. So these look like they are Greek wrestlers, Greco wrestling. So there we are. I think that's what they're meant to be. Okay, those are cool. Oh, look at this. Look at this. I love Greek pottery. I really, really do. That sort of it's almost like Art Deco in a way. All right, and then I'm just nervous about this one. Okay, that's the lovers. Okay, good. That's cool. That's great. All right, so we'll come back. We'll play around with this. We've got some columns that we can drop in here to make a bit of a stage. The stage would actually be there. I'll drop it in now because I've got it. Might as well use it. So that could be quite fun. We'll come back and we can develop that. Aha! Yes, wrestler in German is Ringer. There you go. That makes a lot of sense now. Good. What the hell is this? It's the foot of a statue covered in mud. Okay, good. Great. I've fun to do that. I go, what is that? What can we use it for? And then use it for something completely different. But this is not what I wanted to look at. I wanted to talk about this geode. How am I going to make this geode work? So we're going to go to cave, because cave has got a lot of fun stuff. It kind of makes sense. We're building a cave as well. And there was talk about making it over a pit, over a dark pit of doom, which is great. How do we do that, though, in this particular instance? How do we make this feel like there is a dark space, a disappearing into the void, if you like, which is really what we wanted to do. We wanted to look as if it's disappearing. So I'm going to choose... I mean, they've got glowing crystal and they've got crystal... Doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what color we choose either. I mean, we'll come back to it. So this is how I'm going to do this, I think. This is my initial plan, right? So the very center is where? Boom, 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 boom. It's sort of there because some idiot chose 17 as his base. Oh, no, we don't want glowing. We just want regular. We'll come back to glowing, right? So, Vicky, the tree goblins don't actually worship these. These crystals, what these crystals allow for, I should say, is the crystals allow for the Gakota, the lizard folk who mine them. They allow them to be active with magic. They enhance their magical abilities and are very valuable to them because they can store magic spells in these crystals and use them for whatever purposes they desire, which is fantastic. Completely missed that center, but that's okay. All right. So there we go. You'll see what I'm going to be doing in a little bit, I hope. Because this whole thing is about these crystals, I want these crystals to sit in a... That's close enough. That's close enough. I want these crystals to sit in a circle in the middle so that we get a sense that they are spherical in nature, right? So I'm just going to be layering it for a little bit. And I know I could use the automated rotate by X amount of degrees function that Dungeon Fog has. It has it for a reason. I'm not going to use that in this case because the maths would take longer for me to set up than for it to be effective. So, and this way I can also make it a little bit more organic by having some outer growths. Okay, and then we're just going to plonk down one in the middle. All right, so there we go. It's in the middle. It looks like a blooming flower. Yeah, I think that's going to be very pretty. What we're also going to do is we're going to put one of these around the edge. And I'll show you a little technique that I use to make them feel as if they're not all the same, because it is a giant geode after all. So we want crystals, and the players can climb onto these crystals. I would make it a climb check of some kind because it's smooth. But if they battle someone on them, I would say that there is probably like a 1 in 12 chance of impalation. I don't think that's a word. Of being impaled. Oops. On these crystals. So I would rule that that's something definitely that could possibly happen. And that if they want to climb up, they can, but there is that risk. Or benefit, I suppose. Don't use the shatter spell. Yeah, absolutely don't use the shatter spell. Okay, so this one we're going to have to be a little bit careful with because we want it to appear as if they've broken through that. Okay. And let's just rotate. Okay, so I think it's starting. I think definitely if you were to look at this, you would say that it looks like they have cut into a fairly irregular or fairly regular, I don't know, gemstone. Right, and we'll just drop. So what I'm doing is I'm creating, like there's the opening space, okay, and then they have to move around a clump to see what's going on, and then we'll make a little cluster here that they can, I'm just going to unify it there so it looks like that. Okay, so I think that works pretty well. So yeah, they'd be impaled. No, impalation, I think that's a word. I think it's a word. I'm not sure. I don't think it's a word, actually. And if it isn't, I'm going to make it up. I'm going to copyright it. Impalation. Ah, there we go. It is a word. Ha ha. Thank you, Google. To impale, the transitive verb. To pierce with or as if with something pointed especially. What? That's weird. Okay, impalation. Impalation. There you go. Yes, see, sometimes when you make up a word, it's actually already been made up. Isn't that the rule of the internet? Right, but we're not finished yet. We're not finished yet. So we want these crystals to look as if they are receding downward rather than at the surface. And one of the ways that we can do that is we can darken them down manually and then gradate them. I bet you that's not a word. Gradiate it outwards, which I think could work, but I think it's going to take an awfully long time to do that. So I don't want to do that because I think that would be daft. Well, I don't think it would be daft. I think it would be very effective, but I think there's a faster way of doing it. And this is my theory. Vlad of impalation. Well, kinda. These brushes... Wait, do brushes sit there? No, they don't. I don't think they do. I don't think they do. I don't think there's an easier way. Oh my god, that's painful. I don't think brushes sit on top. I think they sit underneath. That's why they designed them. I don't want any saturation. So let's see if this works. I don't think it's going to work. No, it's sitting underneath, isn't it? Yeah, because if I do that, we definitely see it. All right, that was the theory. The theory has now died. So my last chance of salvation here is to use a color. Excuse me. I can make it above the wall, so it will sit above everything. Oh. And I'm going to make what looks like a circle. Let's see if this works. I'm trying to find faster ways of doing stuff, right? Okay, bear with me. And then we do that. Okay, bear with me. Bear with me. See what I'm doing? See what I'm doing? Oh, no, what am I doing? What the hell am I doing? I've chosen the wrong thing. Choose that thing. So we sort of do something like that. Does it look... No, it looks weird, doesn't it? I could probably get it right. Okay, fine. I tried. And that's what this stream is about, right? Sharing is caring. Didn't work. So, that means we make this minus 60, minus 30, if we really wanted to. Unless someone can think of a different way of doing it. I could probably ask Till or one of the Discord jocks. They always know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, it kind of works. It sort of gives us the illusion. We could play around with this for more if we really wanted to. I'm not convinced. But once we are done with this sort of rosette pattern, we could also, and this is I think this is just a testimony, is someone was asking how much does this cost? How much does Dungeon Before cost? I actually can't tell you off the top of my head how much it actually costs because I haven't actually ever looked into it. But if you use the code GREATGM, then you get a discount. I think the discount's 10% or 15% of that. I must double check because it changes every now and again. So yeah, it kind of looks like it's tapering off. And then what we do is we do use this trick, right? But we go back to our texture and we go to solid stone and we make it a lot darker. And we make the opacity a lot brighter. And then we do this. Okay. Doesn't look like much. Just give me a chance. I think we settled on 150 and we can make it really dark. Somewhere about there. And we start to get this curvature coming through. Okay. Right. Another thing that I would suggest that we do just to make these seem more magical is every now and again just randomly grab one, bump up its intensity perhaps. Maybe that's still too much. Just to make them feel like some are a little bit older, some are a little bit younger. To give it some variation on a theme, if you like. So you can certainly play around with that. And then this looks fairly mundane at the moment. And I think that is because, and I see a lot of people's maps don't go this next step. And this next step is super easy, right? And it's just so powerful. We go fire. And we're working with these kind of bluish green crystals. Doesn't really make a difference. And then we can start to just do this, right? So let's do it in that sort of shape. Now, when we select this, the lighting tool is very underused in my opinion. And that's this little doodad down here. So we want that light to be a little bit more in keeping with the overall light of the crystals. We maybe want it a little bit more intense so that space feels a bit more intense. It's illuminating 7 squares at the moment. So I'm actually going to take that up to, let's say, 10 squares. So it's quite a bright area. But the flame itself looks boring. So we're going to scroll all the way down here on the actual flame itself. And we just make the flame vanish. So now we're starting to get this really cool effect. And then when we select this, we can say cast shadow. And it starts to do some very funky stuff, which I think is going to make our central area even darker. But it just starts to make things feel like they have dimension to them. Now, you don't have to do it for all of them. Just choose one or two select ones and see what they do and what sort of effects they do. It's very subtle, but they do now feel like they're actually standing out of the space. I feel anyway. And like I said, you just choose one or two to add to your effect. And we go from there. So I always would recommend doing that. Right, and so we come to this one. We want it to be that bluer sort of color, a bit more intense. Take it up to 10 feet. Might be too much, so we've got to play around with that. I do spend, I would say, probably not the majority of my time. The majority of my time is usually on furnishings. I will be honest. It's on choosing the right, oh, this should be in that room, this should be in that room. But I don't know. I think that this is suddenly starting to pop as a space. If you're worried that the objects, like these crystals, are becoming a bit washed out in terms of detail, what you do, because we've got a lot of light in here by Dungeon Fog standards anyway, but what we do now is we go to the light sources, and you can generally click roughly where you think they are. And this is what you're working with here, is the light brightness, basically. So if I drop it down, you'll see that we still get illumination, we're still getting shadows, but it's not so washed out. It's very much darker in its effect on the crystal. So we're getting a little bit of detail coming back. I don't know if you can actually see that on the stream. So we're getting a bit of detailing coming back. Now the room ambient light means the light in the room and then the light on the stage. So the stage we can drop all the way down, so we don't actually see very much at all of the stage. But the room, once we start dropping that room down, well, that's when the lights start getting really powerful. So if we drop it down to like there, right, that's really atmospheric. That's really creepy. And you look at that picture and you're like, that's beautiful. And we still haven't finished. There's still more. We can throw in skeletons and all kinds of stuff. So I think that this is one of the real powers. And then for me, I also use this. This is not in a campaign, so I don't actually have any tokens, but I've got some that I pre-made. I baked these in the oven earlier, and here they are for you to have a look at. So let's use, I don't know, let's use the new Raj token. And we have a blue border. And so now when we enable his line of sight, and we say that that is 6 squares, we can drop him into this room. Okay, notice the size of the token. That also helps give a sense of scale, right? Save. Yeah, that's good. So we save. But when we go to Raj, we can make him a light source. So if he casts the light spell, he becomes a light source. Let's say we ask him what color is his magic, and he says it's yellow. Okay, great. How far out does it extend to? It's a 5-foot radius. Okay, cool. So now, whilst he's moving around, he's getting this dynamic lighting effect. And how cool is that? I don't know. To me, this is one of the reasons why I get so excited about this program, is that you get this really cool effect. And the players are seeing, we're at 30%, remember. So the players on their actual map, they're seeing this. So they're seeing these dark shapes, and it's like monsters could be hiding behind there, and they would not see them. They really wouldn't see them. So I think that's job well done, right? And look, when they stand there, there's double. So yeah, to me, that's one of the real powers of this software. Now we can then go in and we can decorate it with skeletons and pickaxes, and here we would want to. So when we come over to this excavation part, we go to let me just think. Now we go, I don't think cave, no, battlegrounds. Moth. Battlegrounds has got things like ruins, right? So we shrink that down a little bit, and we drop some stone in there to make it feel like they've dug through. We can go, cave does have some rock in it. Otherwise, you see, their cave and rock to me is too bright. It's like, it's weird. Who else had good rock? I don't think it was Victorian. It wasn't the desert. It wasn't the Greeks, because they only just came out. Wilderness had some rock, but they had big chunky bits of rock. It doesn't look like it's, well, we could certainly do that. So let's do that. So we go there and we just knock all the color out and we make it darker. So let's get rid of that block. Delete. Delete. Goodbye. Go away. I don't want you anymore. No. My delete key's not working. That's very sad. Trash it. So we could put this there. I mean, we can play around with it. It's irritating me now that I don't remember where the rubble is that I wanted to use. But yes, so we'll go in and we'll decorate, but we're running out of time now. I wanted to show you this idea that I had for the geode. And then if it's not illuminated, we've got young Raj walking down. Our corridors are suddenly being illuminated by the spell that he's using. And now when we come in here, we get this wonderful amphitheater, which if we go cast shadows, we can make it cast nice long shadows. So it gets really, really scary stuff. Same here, make those shadows long. So as you're sort of walking around, look at that shadow of that column. To be or not to be. So there we go. All right, and then we'll decorate and continue further. Maps led us here. Right, so yes, let's do that very quickly. Let us export. No, that is not the button I wanted to press. That is not the button I want to press. AK Writer says, just out of curiosity, as a South African, is your native language English or Afrikaans? The first language that I could speak, once I learned how to speak, was, as a matter of fact, Zulu. So Zulu was the first language that I learned how to speak. And then I learned English. And the area of South Africa that I grew up in was a very English area. Well, it's actually a very German area of South Africa. I grew up near the two towns that were closest to me were Hermannsburg and Wartburg. And so I was destined to go to a German school, as a matter of fact. And then my family moved to a very British part of South Africa called Howick. And that's where I grew up. And that's where the accent, the very English accent came from, by colonial standards anyway, came from. Shush. Gekota. And then, yes, so that's that. That's where all that came from. Afrikaans was taught, it was required because the government at the time, the apartheid government, was Afrikaans. They required us to learn Afrikaans, which was very difficult because my grandmother used to always maintain, we don't need to learn how to speak another language. We speak English, and that's any language that you need. My mother was a German teacher and an English teacher, so Afrikaans was not her first language either, or second language. So it became a challenge to learn the language, and I didn't very well. I spent 10 years studying it. And yeah, as someone pointed out, I'm not allowed to speak in public thanks to my Afrikaans teacher. She said, what you do is terrible. Don't do it again. Be quiet. So there we go. Yeah. There we go. I know that Afrikaans is still one of the languages that you are required to learn, but you can also learn, a lot of schools will substitute Afrikaans for Zulu. Zulu being the most spoken Nguni language anyway. So let's put this in the I'm not even spelling it correctly, am I? Kota Sunstone Mine. And I'm not going to put in too much of a description. I'm just going to say create map. I think I've just done something stupid. Did I? Nope. Okay, so there's the map. So I wanted to show you this about the World Anvil site because I think this is really, really, really cool. Is we open it up in presentation mode. I prefer to work in presentation mode. And then we can start labeling stuff. So, that's an interesting error I need to tell Dungeon Fog about. If you have a token in the map that's illuminated, the token isn't there, but the illumination is. Little bugs that make them happy. So we can then right click and say main geode. Okay. We can choose the marker, whatever. We can say echoes, shadows, and false images. Let's say if we're using 5th edition, disadvantage on range attacks, right? What do the players know about this? Only you can see this, so this is what we know. Verbal spells deal double effect. Verbal spells have double effect in this chamber due to sound reverberation. Okay, cool, fine. And then if we wanted to create a new article, we could create a new article here speaking specifically about this. So we create the marker. All right, cool. And then we work our way through and we just create these and bingo. I mean, it's just simple and easy, and that's why I like it. So that's what the players are seeing. Disadvantage on range attacks. And as a player, it's like, look, there we go. Bards too. Yeah, absolutely. Bards would have an absolutely chaotic time. We could say here, this is the goblin tunnel. Choose a marker. Yeah. Let's just go with danger. So we could do that, right? And then outside, etc. I mean, it's marvelous. Abandoned amphi. How the hell theatra? Don't know if that's right. Don't care. And ruin, I think, is a good one here. Ruin blue, and then we can put in some details, right? So yeah, very simple to mark up our map, and then we just keep this open whilst we're playing. Or we could mark it up in Dungeon Fog if we're going to use Dungeon Fog as our battle map controller, which is what I do. We could actually put these notes into the Dungeon Fog file as well, and that would remind us. So yeah, there we go. Well, I think, folks, that's it from me for tonight. It is our usual time. Amphitheater. Did I get it right? Abandon amphitheater. Yes, I think I did. Well, look at that. Good heavens. Someone would be proud. Somewhere. I don't know who. So, all right. I think that's it for us tonight, everybody. I'm really, really appreciative of your company. I really am grateful. Thank you for joining me. And as I have said, my head is cut off because I don't know why. Anyway, as I have said before, this is the last of the Saturday runs that I will be doing. Just to regather, recoup, think about life, that sort of thing. So it has been fun, and I really appreciate your company. I really do. Tomorrow is live sessions with the GM, so don't miss that one. I will be going through the Circle of World Builder 5-step adventure entries that were sent through for last weekend. I will continue to go through those on tomorrow. I'm hoping a special guest tomorrow evening who will be talking about a new sponsor that's joining our channel moving forward. If you haven't watched this week's player video, then you won't know who I'm talking about, but they'll be joining us. So, and then as usual, all of your questions will be answered about role playing. So lots of fun tomorrow, lots of fun. And I think it's about keeping these things lean, mean, and as entertaining and as useful as possible without sort of overextending oneself as well. So thanks to each and every single one of you. I must admit, I do, as I see names, I see people who are always around, and it really is, I wish I could spend more time with each and every one of you. I really do, because it's like, oh, there's so-and-so. I'm not going to mention names now because people get jealous, but it's like, oh, there's so-and-so, there's so-and-so, there's so-and-so, and it's cool. It's really cool. Anyway, right, until tomorrow. I will see you then. I wish you all the very, very, very happiest of gaming.